I just saw a Huffington Post article about my book that was like, Frankie hopes that this book enrages Trump and gets banned in red states. And that's kind of the attitude I think we need right now. Be safe, of course, like safety first. Like, don't do this in the middle of an unbelievably conservative red state where everyone around you has a gun. Like, let's be smart. But we have to be just loud and active and supportive of each other in the community in a vocal way. That's also why I wrote a book and called it Supergay. I want to inflame people that don't want to read it. And also, let's get loud, let's get angry, and let's safely tell the administration to f off.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Obsessed the Podcast. I'm Kevin Fallon, here to guide you through all the TV shows, movies, and celebrity nonsense that we think is unmissable. And today's guest is a fun time, to say the least. It is Frankie Grande, who you might know from his revolutionary turn on Big Brother back in 2014 that people still talk about today. He is currently starring in Titaníque on Broadway, the kooky crazy Celine Dion musical that I cannot get enough of and I cannot stop making all of you go see. And you also might have heard of his little sister, Ariana Grande, who we talk a lot about. We had such a great, very funny conversation. I can't wait for you all to hear it. We talk about Titaníque. We talk about his kind of amazing journey through addiction to become sober and how Ariana and his family helped him through that. We talk about coming out. We talk about the big orange monster who's making things so hard for gays right now. All of that and more. Here's my interview with Frankie Grande. Hello, Frankie Grande.
Hi, how are you? I'm so excited for my mukbang interview that we're about to do. I'm eating my Starbucks, got my lemon loaf, and I'm really excited.
I love it. You are one of our first guests to be mukbanging for us, and also, I think, our first to be shirtless during an interview. So that's very exciting for me.
It's 102 degrees in New York City, and not much better in my dressing room, so we will be doing this shirtless.
Oh, we are very familiar about the heat here in our New York City studio with the lights roasting my face right now.
Oh my God, it's wild what they do to us. It's wild. I didn't almost pass out during the show today, but I felt like I was not in my body. Like, it felt so weird. Like it took more energy to do things, but I could tell that I was doing them in half speed that I normally was. It's just hot.
I can't even imagine the amount of sweat that's flinging around on that stage today.
Mm-hmm. Sweat and spit, girl. Is it a musical or is it a sex party? No idea.
It's a good time either way.
It's both. It's both. Yeah. A little bit of both.
So obviously you are so good in Titaníque, this kooky, crazy musical that's on Broadway. Just was nominated for a bunch of big Tony Awards. You've been with it for a very long time. I would love for you to explain to the people who might not be familiar what Titaníque is, and more importantly, who you play, because who you play is a very interesting version of this character in the Titanic tale.
Yes, exactly. So elevator pitch is that it's the story of Titanic, which is, the iconic story of Jack and Rose, told by real passenger Celine Dion. And it is the greatest time you'll ever have in a theater. It's just like, you will never laugh harder. Your face will never hurt more. I heard someone who was just like, I went to Rocky Horror last night and this is so much more fun. And that's that's a great statement, because Rocky Horror is a fucking blast. So I really, it's just the most fun you'll ever have in theater. And I play the captain. And we call him Victor Garber.
Of course.
So he's actually the architect, the captain, and also the owner. So Mr. Andrews, Captain Smith, and we just call him Victor Garber.
Yes, Victor Garber, who played that part, in the movie. Yes.
Yeah, there he is, me and Victor on my wall.
Love it.
Right there. I've got my, I should get the new pictures, because he came again to see us on Broadway, which was really spectacular for me. I had a great time that night. It was really cool.
I can only imagine what being on that show has been like the last month, because we're talking right after Pride Month ended. And I've seen that show more times than I care to admit. I'm a huge fan of Titaníque. I actually have a quote that's on the marquee from the Daily Beast that I wrote.
You do?
Yes.
That's you?
That's me.
Work.
I sort of count myself as someone who's had his name on Broadway.
You are. You're on a Broadway marquee.
Exactly. But I am curious how much fun that show must be to perform during something like Pride Month.
You know, it's weird because the gays came right in the front. The gays were very heavily front loaded. We had many like just sea of hot men. And so like they were there like early. So like Pride actually felt a little bit more like drag race fans, like families, a lot of kids, so many
Oh
kids
my
have come to
goodness.
the show. So many kids. I just did a meet and greet at the stage door, all Frankini fans from like 5 to 10 years old, just the cutest kids in the world. So we're a family show, which is great.
Yeah, who knew?
And it was, yeah, exactly. And so it's just been really wonderful. And, Pride Month was, a surprise to me because I thought it was going to be like a very heavily gay month, but it wasn't. The gay audiences were in the beginning, and now we're in like more of like we're families. We watch Drag Race. We love the movie Titanic, and we wanted to come see what y'all are doing. Or Celine, we love Celine Dion, and so we just want to come be part of the crazy, kooky, crazy, the kooky, crazy fun. And they love it, and it's awesome.
I've always been curious because the show is so high energy and there is so much tomfoolery happening on stage, to say the least. How do you usually come down from something as high energy as that?
I don't. I don't. The other day. I went to sleep at like 5:30. Because when I go home, I'm psychotic. I have all that energy. And my favorite thing to do is to watch Downton Abbey. I know every single line to the entire series. I go from season 1 through season 6, and then I do all 3 movies, and then I start back over again. And I just watch like 30 minutes a night, and it helps me, the calming tones of Lady Grantham, like really just kind of lull me into a sense of security. And that's how I usually fall asleep. But my husband, I don't get to spend much time with him. So I get home and it's like game time. It's like, let's play games, let's watch movies, like let's cuddle, let's usually like that's all when I get home. So like I don't go to sleep till 2 or 3 in the morning usually.
And Titanique has sort of been this Cinderella story little show that could. It's on Broadway now. I first saw it when it was in the basement of a Gristedes grocery store in Chelsea, Manhattan, with rats running around, AC sludge dripping on the audience members. And I have to ask, because you've been a part of this since the beginning, do you even a little bit miss that basement?
Absolutely not. To quote Deborah Cox, absolutely not. No, not at all. It was hard. That was a really tough environment to perform. Doing a show this big for a room that small, for an audience that small, is very tough. It's very tough. It takes a lot psychologically out of you as well. Because like now I get to do the exact same show that I've been doing for 9 years. Nothing has changed, like other than the fact that there's more stairs. That's really like in terms of my show, what has changed is I was singing the same things, I was doing the same amount of physicality, I was sprinting around. It's just there's more stairs because now the shit set goes up rather than across. And so I'm still exerting the same amount of energy, but now I get to do it for 1,400 people, which sounds a hell of a lot better
Yes.
than 90. So no, I do not miss it at all. And RIP Asylum, see you later. The show is much better here. It got the glow up that it needed.
It certainly has been a glow up, for sure.
Yeah. Such a great glow up. And it was so tough in the asylum that a lot of people like couldn't cut it and left. Which was understandable. I wasn't one of them. Me, John, Marla, and Connie stayed. But everyone else was like, I quit. And I was like, I get it. It's tough. It is hard. It was hard out there. So yes, no, I don't miss it.
Well, I have to tell you that earlier this week I interviewed Law Roach, who is
I love Law.
Yes, obviously the celebrity stylist of all celebrity stylists. He works often with your sister Ariana Grande. And I asked him, well, I told him that I was going to be interviewing you, and I asked him if he had any tips for me, and he said, and I quote, "He's crazy as hell."
Yes, that's actually Yeah, I thought it was gonna be worse. Because we have a very playful relationship, so I'm grateful. I'm always grateful to Law. I love Law. I love Law. I always text him and I get all the tea on Project Runway, girl. I get all the tea. I love it.
He's so good judging that show too.
He's fantastic. We needed him. We desperately needed him. We needed him on Drag Race. We needed him on Project Runway. I can't wait for him and Tyra together. Oh my god, it's going to be unhinged. It's going to be unhinged. I hope they get into huge fights, which they probably will.
I was just about to say, I am dying for them to have some sort of "we were rooting for you" iconic moment.
I just posted that. Go look at my Instagram.
Okay.
Literally right before this, I posted a "we were rooting for you"
Amazing.
video.
Let's face it, after a night of drinks, it can be hard to bounce back. But that's where ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink comes in. It's a genetically engineered probiotic invented by PhD scientists. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, more than dehydration, that's to blame for rough days after drinking. ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel like yourself the next day. July is packed with barbecues, fireworks, lake weekends, and late nights with friends. Keep the good times rolling into the next day. Drink pre-alcohol before you go out and wake up ready for whatever Sunday brings. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/OTP and use the code OTP at checkout for 15% off. That's zbiotics.com/OTP and use the code OTP at checkout for 15% off. So I'm also talking to you. It's been about a week, I believe, since you released a new book.
Yeah. Oh my God. Crazy.
It has a very subtle title that I would love for you to tell the people what it is.
Yes, it's called Supergay. Which there's a subtitle. I don't know if you know that, but it's the good gay comes out on top even when he's a bottom. So, it's a very subtle, just like me. What if I wrote like a memoir and it was literally like "The Lilies by the Brook" by Frankie Grande? Could you imagine the horse shit? So it's like, I think that I love about this book and what now that it's out in the world and I've heard public reaction is everyone is like, it sounds like you. Like I'm reading the book and I feel like you are talking directly to me. And then I narrated the audiobook. So obviously that sounds like me. But the fact that I was able to convey my voice through the page has been the highest compliment that I ever could have received. Like work, like it doesn't sound, Instinct magazine something suddenly. It's not a polished memoir with like cute anecdotes. It's like no, this shit is like real. It's like Frankie's life, and he's talking to you like it's him. So that was a really big compliment, and I'm really happy it's out. Crazy.
And what I love about it too is it's so entertaining to read because it is in your voice, but you're also really telling about everything. You're talking about your addiction and your journey to sobriety. You're talking about your sluttiness in ways that are both really fun to read and in ways that you're being sort of real and accountable about it. Did you ever have a hesitation about being just so full frontal about all of those things?
I mean, I knew if I was gonna write a memoir, then it had to be this honest. So no, there was never a moment like it was actually more gratuitous, if you will. There were more stories in there. We had to edit it down. Like I was ready to tell even more shit. So it actually got pared down to the book that you have today, which is extremely honest. But I went out, I set out, and I was just like, no, I have no regrets over my past, because I've lived through it and because it made me the person that I am today. So me sharing that with the world it's really just hopefully to inspire people and take some of the stigma around drug use, addiction, sex addiction, like really just being, grinder addicted, all of the things that I share about in this book. I've just tried to destigmatize it because that's how I that's how I got sober, is by listening to other addicts talk about their story. And so if I can be that for anyone else or for families, because a lot of it has to do with my mother and sister and how our relationships broke down and how I was able to rebuild those. So if even if a family member picks up this book and realizes, oh my God, I actually, understand my addict son or daughter a little bit more, then I have accomplished so much more than I set out to do.
How has writing this book and talking about those times where relationships with your mom and your sister were broken because of behaviors that you were going through, how is writing that book and having it out in the world and then maybe having them read it now and just revisiting all of those moments, how has that been for you and for your relationships with them?
It's the best thing in the world, the greatest thing in the world. Like, so many conversations happened because I wrote this book that I don't think would have ever happened. And we've had so many healing conversations since I wrote this book that have healed some of my past trauma, that I wasn't even thinking needed to be addressed. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, and you wrote that thing in the book. I didn't realize that. And I was like, "Oh, really?" And he's like, yeah. He's like, do you want to talk about it? And I was like, yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, please, please, let's talk about it. Even my addiction, I know my mother has been so supportive about me and in recovery, but like she didn't ask many questions over the past 9 years about my addiction. And so this like really gave her an open forum to be like, okay, like I didn't know how bad it was. And I would love to talk to you now, knowing how bad it was, about that time in your life. And I'm like, great. Please, let's talk about it. Even with me going to rehab, and she like just didn't know how bad it was. And so I'm grateful she now does. I think it makes also some of my behaviors a little bit more understandable, quote unquote.
Hmm.
Um, because of how dark it was. I mean, no one knew what I was doing alone, and no one. And now everyone does, which is really cool. No place to hide.
And how has it been for you to be able to revisit those things and have those conversations? Because you write really beautifully in the book about how painful it was to realize that you weren't able to be there because you were too high for your mom and for your sister during really traumatic things like spanning from when Ariana's career was first taking off and trying to navigate child stardom to when there was that horrible bombing tragedy at the Manchester concert. And you felt like you weren't able to show up for them in the way that you needed to because you were high. And I'm curious now, looking back on that and having those conversations with your family, how are you feeling about those moments?
It's interesting when I read the book, when I reread the book to edit and even doing the audiobook, those moments were not triggering for me at all because I've done the work over those instances to forgive myself first and foremost, and to repair those relationships. So like I can read those chapters, like I can like bust open the chapter about Manchester and like just read it and be fine. It's the origin story stuff that I still have trouble with because there's a lot of childhood Frankie stuff that has not healed yet, that I'm working on with a therapist now. Like it opened up all this stuff that I was like, oh, there's childhood trauma wounds that you haven't healed, that will help you in life. So it's actually harder for me to read origin story than it is for me to read Manchester, which is crazy.
And I think what's also really interesting about the book that is because it's called Supergay. I think people automatically are so interested in learning what your family was like when you were growing up, maybe showing signs of being more flamboyant than other boys, what it was like for you when you were coming out to them. And it was really interesting to read the sort of spectrum of reactions that your very, I would say, gregarious family had to you coming out.
Large, loud Italian family. Yeah, they were great, and they're all there, and it's so fun to read. What Grandpa's reaction was, what Nona's reaction was, and Aunt Judy's, and my mother's, and my sister's, and it's just yeah, and I don't think it's anything that anyone would expect, honestly. Which is also another reason I wanted the book out there, especially for young queer teens and for also parents of queer kids. Because it's like there. My mother says all the time, like there's no a manual there's no manual for parents. And so, it's like mistakes can be made. And so, yeah, I want everyone to see that this guy who is 43 years old and who wrote a book called Supergay did not have it easy coming out of the closet. Like it wasn't like a okay, great. Like it wasn't like a totally fine. It wasn't. It was tumultuous. And years of my life where I was lived in fear every single day of my life. And so I want people to know that because I think that they look at this and they assume, oh, he has it easy. It was probably fine for him. And I want them to know that it was not easy, but you can still be this fucking gay. Like you can have a difficult time coming out and still get to this place where I'm at right now, which is literally a professional homosexual.
Professional homosexual. I think that should actually be like some sort of business card you hand out.
It should be. Should be. That was another working title. That's actually a good one. That should be my follow-up book.
Yes. I think you get to have the badge of honor that I think so many gay men would love to have, which is that you were outed professionally by Ariana Grande in a Tiger Beat feature. That's wild.
It's one of my favorite parts of the book. Ariana, I remember her taking a picture of the book when she was reading it and sending it to me with just cry, 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 laugh, cry, laugh, cry, laugh, cry, laugh, cry, laugh emojis. Yes, it was such a wild thing, and I am so grateful. I found the picture actually of the magazine, so I have that again. And I'm just so it's a craziest story. It's such a crazy story, but I'm so grateful to her because we were debating about it in the family. Oh God, how is he going to come out? When is he going to come out? Maybe you don't come out professionally. Da 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 da. And then all of a sudden, I was out. Thank you, Ariana.
Mm-hmm. There's a few of your experiences when you were first moving to New York and working here that I want to ask you about. And I guess really just sort of live vicariously through you because they're things that I imagine were things that I would imagine that many other gay men my age would imagine were a blast and a dream. You got to perform in Mamma Mia on Broadway, which I think
Yeah.
every gay man wants to do.
Yeah, I was a drunk Greek cabana boy in Mamma Mia. It was so incredible.
And like you
Incredible.
described it as sort of like being thrown to like all the hot Broadway dancers and this sort of like kid at a candy store buffet of sexual options.
Yep, 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 yep. It was wonderful, wonderful, unbelievable, crazy. And where I truly discovered like the power of my sexuality was that beginning on Broadway.
Yeah. And you also spent a lot of time at the very famous and iconic club The Box.
Certainly did.
And you were one of the Box Boys. And you got to
Crazy.
and the celebrity stories that you tell in the book about being a Box Boy and working there are kind of crazy. Like it involves like Jude Law and Sienna Miller and
Yeah.
Christina Aguilera and like
Yep.
Ian McKellen. The Ian McKellen one in particular is pretty iconic.
Is my favorite thing. I was so happy. So he was good friends with the owner's mother, and so he came all the time. And so yeah, I sat down with Ian McKellen and I just went, "Why just stand there, sit all alone in the corner of the box, precious?" And he went, let me guess, Frodo. And I was like, like it was just like crazy, high as a kite, high as a kite, and having the best time.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's also so interesting to know you now as a professional gay, as we were just talking about, and to think about how your career sort of moved to where you are now. Obviously you started in theater. You were producing Broadway shows for a while. You then went back to Los Angeles and started sort of experimenting with YouTube and becoming a social media star. And things sort of took off, as I found reading this book, thanks to Justin Bieber.
Yes. Yeah. That was the time. I could not believe that night. It was one of the craziest nights of my life. I'd gone to go see Ariana open for Justin, and I was doing a vlog, and he was going by me on his little Segway, or he used to ride the Segway around when the Segway was a thing. And then as he was driving by, I just put my hand out and he gave me a high five. And I was vlogging, so I was like this, and I was like, and then I posted this video. It was 22 minutes long, and then I got in a car. We were in Florida, and I had to drive to Georgia to fly to Africa to do my Broadway in South Africa charity work. And on that car ride, which was like 8 hours, it had 1 million views. And I was like, what just happened? Like, it was just, that's it. It was just, and that was it. And then all of a sudden I had 500,000 subscribers and all my videos were getting millions of views. And then it was off to the races.
Yeah. And even as different as that was at the time from how people traditionally sort of grew their careers and became famous through social media and being online, things now are even so vastly different from then. And I'm curious what you would say or caution to people who are now trying to become famous online, trying to become influencers, based on your experience and based on how you've noticed things could happen for them in both ways, good and bad.
Yeah, touch grass. Put the fucking phone down and touch grass. Like, go roll around in grass. Because I became literally slaved to my phone and to recording content constantly, to the point of where it was affecting everyone around me, all my relationships, the way that I existed in the world. And of course, like, I would get drunk and high and then do this shit. And what's interesting is what I've been reading and understanding is that kids these days are choosing sobriety, like straight edge, not even like like going to rehab or anything to get sober, just being like, I don't want to be fucked up, because they post shit online while they're drunk and while they're high, and then they can never be employed again. Like, look at this shit with the guy from Heated Rivalry with the swastika on his face. It's like, it's something like that, because you were drunk, and a kid can ruin your life forever. And it's like, kids are now making the choice, like, I don't want to be drunk and high, because everyone has a phone, everyone's constantly on their phone, and I could say or do something that could ruin my life forever. So I would just caution people, like, make it a job and know when you're going to work. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to work right now, so I'm filming my content. This is work time, my OnlyFans content, where whatever it is, like, we're in the studio, and it's not like, oh, I'm walking down the street, or oh, I'm out at a bar and I'm gonna post. Like, that is so scary. I'm so grateful that I didn't have like I did have access, actually. I did have access and I didn't fuck up, which is crazy. But I can't believe I survived some of those nights, actually. Now that I'm thinking back on it, like, that's wild. But anyway, yeah, it's like, be careful. Just like, make it a job and then go have a life. Make them separate things. Period.
That's great advice. Great
Yeah.
advice.
And touch grass.
And touch grass. So, as I imagine, as part of your official capacities as a professional gay, you are also, I understand, on the board of GLAAD.
Yeah.
Which I think is so awesome. And what I wanted to pick your brain about, because of how kooky, crazy, and the worst possible way things are right now, through that capacity of working with GLAAD, like, what do you think is the thing we should be most activated about, what we should be advocating for, angriest about, or worried about? Like, what do you think, what is your advice to people who are stressed right now because of these times, for how to be activated and active?
It's like, I just saw a Huffington Post article about my book that was like, Frankie hopes that this book enrages Trump and gets banned in red states. And that's kind of the attitude I think we need right now. It's like, be safe, of course, like, safety first. Like, don't do this in the middle of an unbelievably conservative red state where everyone around you has a gun. Like, let's be smart. But we have to be just loud and active and supportive of each other in the community, in a vocal way, in a way that we really haven't had to be since like the 80s. So it's like, let's get loud, let's get angry, and let's safely tell the administration to fuck off.
Yes.
Safely. I don't want nobody,
Safely.
it's very important. It is important. And listen, and I'm speaking from a place of privilege. Like, I understand that. Like, I understand that I have a microphone and a platform and a space where I can say these things with fear of very little repercussion. But I encourage others to do the same. But that's also why I wrote a book and called it Supergay. And it's like, because I want I want to inflame people that don't want to read it. Somebody came to the show and said, I don't think it should be called Supergay. I think it should be called Superhuman. And I was like, well, that's a shitty fucking title. And also, not why that's not that you need to read this book. If you think my book should be called Superhuman, then this book is really for you, actually. So, like, please pick it up and read it. You know? I was like, that's the worst title in the world.
Those are perfect marching orders, first of all. Supergay is a perfect title, second of all. Third of all, for all of the reasons why people should be reading this book, including everything that you just said, if you're still doubtful, I just want everyone to know just how many juicy, amazing celebrity stories there are, if that's the kind of thing that you're
Sure.
so into. The story about moving from sobriety to being in a throuple, and Madonna, of all people, was a person who warned you against it. Like, come on.
Madonna, and I know I have more Madonna stories, so that'll be for the second book, which we titled, what is it called? Oh, what is it called?
Professional gay.
Professional homosexual. Yeah. Okay, so for this professional homosexual, that will be the rest of the Madonna stories. Will be in professional homosexual.
And finally, I know you have to leave to go sing some more Celine Dion songs, but I want to ask one quick question because I know Big Brother is coming back very shortly. What is the one thing that you think Big Brother fanatics would love to know about being on that show that happens behind the scenes that they wouldn't know about just from watching?
Also, did you love the Big Brother chapter? It was good. It's juicy.
Oh my gosh, of course, yes.
So much tea. I spilled so much tea on that chapter.
The showmance.
It's thick. That's a thick chapter. Well, Zach also is thick, but the showman's.
I really did think you were talking about Zach when you said thick.
Yes, it is. It is thick. But the showman's the chapter is thick. And what is the thing? What I would love people to know is that it is completely unscripted and completely real. And that's, I think, what makes us different than many other reality TV shows in the world. Like, there are no producers saying, stand here and say this, unless you're like hosting a comp and you literally have to stand there and read. It's just like the moment between me and Caleb, like people were like, well, that was scripted. You know, like what did the producers tell you to like pull him aside and talk to him? I was like, no, I was like, no, there is no outside interference in that show at all. And when you get these juicy drama moments that look like they were scripted, it's just because the show is that good. It's just because they cast it that well. And I'm looking forward to this season immensely. And I cannot wait to see what this cast is. And I cannot wait to see what the theme is. And it looks like there's going to be twist after twist after twist. And I'm so grateful that I'm not in the house. It looks like those people are going to be tortured this summer, and I can't wait to watch from the safety of my living room.
I can't wait to watch too. I hope everyone goes to see Titaníque, goes watch you blow the roof off that stage, and I hope they read Supergay. Thank you so much, Frankie. This was so much fun.
Thank you very much. This is lovely. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Frankie. I don't think I've giggled that much in an interview before, so that was so much fun. And thank you for being our very first shirtless guest. That was also very fun. Make sure you go out and buy Supergay and read it. It's so good. And of course, you must go see Titaníque on Broadway. You won't regret it. And as always, we want to hear from you. What was your favorite story that Frankie told? Was it when Justin Bieber suddenly turned into a superstar? I think that one was pretty fun. Let us know. We love to hear from you. And as always, please subscribe to us on YouTube at The Obsessed channel. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like me, subscribe to my Substack at obsessed.substack.com. Thank you to our producer, Rachel Passer. And that's all. I'll see you next time.